Today on Drawbli,
Ben is drawing
apples.
Yay!
Click that subscribe button if you're new around here.
And comment below with ideas what we can do to improve as artists.
So, we both recently watched. You, I think, found this video before me, or we got recommended it at the same time.
You got recommended it. I saw it on your screen. I got jealous. I looked it up. I watched it thinking you had this art knowledge that I wasn't getting. Turns out you never watched it, but you saw me watch it, so then you watched it, and then you did more with that knowledge than I did.
Wow.
So you win that round.
Wow, that was a lot.
YouTube drama. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of drama here between the two hosts of Drawbli. Anyway. Here I found this, or we found this Proco video. We don't watch Proco in this house, but occasionally I'll allow it.
We don't?
No.
Watch a lot of Proco.
I love him. He's a great guy. And he has a lot of great artists come on his YouTube channel and share some amazing knowledge. One of which here, Ahmed Al-Duri, who has been an artist on YouTube and a creator online for quite a long time. Was a guest and just painted some simple apples and talked about his process and specifically focused on a couple different things. One of them, one of the big things here was brushwork. Another thing was edges. So for these first two apples, I had just freshly watched. I'm going to paint 3 different apples in this video. So for this first one, I had just come off of watching his video. And I tried to go in and apply a lot of those techniques. And I really enjoyed this process. And for the second one, I loved that apple even more. These were so much fun to make. I really enjoyed creating them. And I would highly, highly recommend go check out his video. Just search his name or just type in Proco Apple into YouTube. You can probably find it that way. But really great video and just kind of a nice, simplistic subject here to practice some strong fundamentals on.
You really flew with this material. So the story here is you recorded your apples. I was feeling, intimidated by the process. I didn't even record me working on the apples, but I still learned a lot. We won't do a video with me doing apples, just you, because yours are honestly a million times better than mine.
Can we show off one of your apples at the end?
We can show off an apple at the end, and then I did 5 minutes when I was at work. I had some downtime on my break, so I brought in my iPad and I did a 5-minute sketch of a medical equipment piece that was just hanging on the wall, and it was just a few minutes, but the stroke economy I learned from this, the result of that was just this simple do, and I just was really a fan of what came out of that. So I'll show that and my apples at the end, just to prove that I also got something from this. But Ben really flew with this, and I was very, very impressed with his work on the apples.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a simple subject matter, like I said, so it gives you a lot of room to practice actually the technical side of painting. And I would just highly recommend checking it out. So there's the first apple. We are going to now go into the second apple. But one thing that I mentioned earlier, edges, talking about hard and soft edges, is just super fun, getting some really nice contrast between your edges.
Because lost edges, I feel like that's not something you would encounter in a sculpting world. There's just physical edges. You can't have them visually lost.
Yeah, there's just form. Nothing's blending into the background. The only time that happens is when you are, creating a final image, rendering something, and the final image, the shadows kind of fade into the dark background, or a highlight or a rim light kind of fades into the background of a bright backlight. But that's honestly few and far between.
Yeah, it's more about hard, soft edges, but it's totally different connotation in sculpture, as I know.
So this is one of the examples that I'll bring to the table when talking about how different painting is from sculpting, where sculpting is about physical form, and with painting, you can cheat things to the point of saying, hey, I want the focus here, and I'm gonna create these lost edges that completely pull focus away from these other areas. That is a thing that just doesn't exist in 3D. It's just completely different.
How do you then in 3D feel like you pick a focal point?
You can create focal points through many different ways and similar ways in 2D with contrast of detail, contrast of color, lighter colors with more detail, and like one thing that I'll talk about a lot in my videos on my Polygon channel is like the face, and putting lots of small stray strands of hair around the eyes, maybe around the mouth, can help pull in focus there. And then like if your character has longer hair, like in my last video, you have big chunky pieces of hair further down that are less detailed, because you want that focus pulled in on the smaller areas, or at least you're using the smaller areas to pull focus towards the face.
Yeah, because you don't want everything to be detailed, because then it's kind of overwhelming to the eye and it doesn't have that same dramatic effect.
And that technique is used here on this apple, where I have some more detail maybe around the lighter side of the apple with some highlights, and then I use some blending brushes to like smudge and knock out some of the detail in the darker area. This is actually something that your eye does naturally. In darker areas, you see less detail. That is how light works. So in darker areas in paintings, you'll hear a lot of artists talk about putting less information there, because you're like, when you are physically looking at it, your brain is just going to do that anyway. So it's like, don't spend time putting a ton of detail there, and then you can like exaggerate that effect even more.
Two of my favorite takeaways from this video that we watched were, one, when he puts in the initial shadow on his initial block of color, there was a very intentional move of doing that with one stroke.
Yep.
Just one. And then later on, kind of working with that, but that was a huge thing to me on stroke economy, and I challenged myself later to start trying to be that economical in my strokes of just like, can I do here in one stroke what I'm trying to do right now in 10? And usually the answer is actually, yeah, as well.
And that's something that comes with practice.
Yes, practice. And then I liked checkerboarding too, he talked about, which this isn't necessarily an example here.
Blending your planes out. Exactly.
You do the background, and right where the apple is like lightest, that's where you have the darkest background.
Yep.
I thought that was cool. And as you go into the shadow, maybe your background gets a little lighter and contrasts against that shadow a little more. I don't know. I was very surprised by hearing that articulated, and suddenly I can see it everywhere in art. I'm like,
well, it's just
that's why I like
contrast.
That. Yeah. I love it when somebody explains really well, though, how to use an artistic tool like that. Because it's one thing to be told a tool exists. It's such another to be told in words that work for you how to use that tool effectively.
Yeah, sometimes it's just about hearing it described a different way.
Yeah, and you could have two people describe something both perfectly well, but one of them might just resonate with you better.
So this is my tomato apple.
Yeah.
For this apple, I had done 2 other apples, and I decided for this one, I'm going to try everything that I just did without any reference.
Wow.
So this one was definitely the hardest for me, because I was just kind of slapping some colors down. I wanted to play with orange, I wanted to play with blue, and kind of just see what I could do and experiment with that. So it was a lot of me just like coming off of creating these 2 apples using reference, and now starting to practice it without any reference.
Gotcha.
And that's definitely something I recommend doing. If you are going to like practice a technique, like practice drawing a face multiple times, do it with reference, and then try to do it without reference and see how you do. This is definitely my weakest apple out of the 3 that I created. My second one was my best, I think, and my favorite out of what I made. But like, I still learned a lot from doing that. This is like what solidified a lot of this information, even though the final result wasn't necessarily as good.
It was like an open book test versus a closed book test.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. And that looks really good. I'm really surprised you did that all from your imagination, because the background looks amazing. The textures on the apple look amazing. The highlights, the shadows. Yeah, that looks amazing.
Why, thank you. Yeah, it was hard to figure out like the placement of the apple and how the shadow would work. I don't know if it has this effect yet, but like it's starting to look like it's maybe nestled into the corner of a wall, like it's sitting on the ground up against a wall.
Yeah.
So I was trying to like figure out how to make that look more readable and playing around with shadows in the background to like slowly lean it more in that direction.
Yeah.
But like I didn't go in with that intention. And it was just like about finding that along the way. It was tough to do.
That's
for sure.
Cool. Wow, this is so cool. I love watching your workflow. It's so cool to see like how you think and how you work, and what techniques make sense to you. That apple looks so good. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it was hard. I think that this is just a fantastic practice for anybody looking to just practice painting in general, like generally painting. I recommend watching this video, trying it once or twice, and then trying it without any reference.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend it too.
I learned a ton from doing this.
Yeah, me too.
You learned a lot from doing this as well?
Yeah,
Even though, so you just didn't record yours.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe I just felt like I wasn't able to sit down a good block of time to work on it, so I just didn't record. And I didn't take as much time on it as you do here, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, it took about like 45 minutes per apple. Because it's such a simple subject matter, you are free to, like, it doesn't take that much time, and then you are free to kind of play around with a lot of different stuff at the end.
Mm-hmm. That looks cool. Oh, I like your color use there, where you did it like as a value, like black and white, and then erased out around it.
Yeah, it was, so for these, I didn't mention, but I mainly kept these, like 1 or 2 layers.
Wow.
So yeah, just like playing around with saturation there at
Nice.
the end. But there is my final apple. Hopefully you guys enjoyed getting to see some spheres get painted. It's a very simple
see a
subject
lot more
matter.
of that technique from you moving forward with
Yeah,
your other
for sure,
works.
for sure.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see how that integrates into your regular workflow for other objects as well.
And if you guys want to see Ben paint more apples in the future, you can click that subscribe button.
And comment below. We love ideas of what we can do to improve.
And this is the part where we say
Goodbye.
Goomba.
I wish
I was an apple hanging from a tree.
And every time
that Cindy passed, she'd take a bite of me.
We live in Kentucky, can you tell? That man wants to be an apple so that Cindy will come along and take a bite out of him.
What a apple pervert.
An apple pervert.